Good morning. Here's a strange effect for you. I forget what they call it. I think cotton candy or something. I feel a little strange today. And I don't know, we keep going through changes. And I'm just so grateful that the only thing I'm really attached to is heart. Although we are more attached to things than we know. And so the things come up in our lives to show us our attachments so that we can make the choice to let go. If we know time is going infinitely fast, and since the end of the Mayan uh, calendar, that one that had the 9 levels, uh, I don't see that the intensification of time has stopped. And so it just goes beyond anything. And so I've unplugged my mind from thinking that anything is stable. What is stability? I mean, isn't it a lie? Don't we all know that the only oh boy, there we go. See, the camera is proving it. The only thing that's constant is change. What is stability? You know, can webcams play with you? Maybe, maybe. It'll be fun when we begin seeing what's behind everything. And I think sometimes, this room may be full right now. I may have counselors that are present in finer bodies that can't be seen with physical eyes. Who knows? It's that old thing, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Well, an infinite number, I guess. Does the pin exist? Whatever. I mean, how many could dance within an atom? All that infinite space inside the atom. I mean, what's reality? We've got an individual mind that can be seen in its 4 levels: subconscious, unconscious, conscious, and superconscious. But we also have the group mind, the collective. Oh boy. I guess I didn't intend this particular light show, but what the heck. At least the color of my shirt matches the color of the funny screen here. So it almost looks intentional. Where was I? We've got the collective agreements that we made. Now, we're making one of the biggest shifts that's ever been made. So I suggest we all unplug ourselves from thinking that history has to repeat itself. That's a very old pattern that we can let go of. To a certain extent, I don't know how it works, but to a certain extent, we have individual realities that we're creating. And spirit won't interfere with that. I think spirit loves nothing more than doing what we want, giving us what we ask for. It's just that we don't know how to ask for it. We don't realize that whole passel of subconscious beliefs down there is the asking, and that even though we're not consciously aware of it, that doesn't mean anything. It's on us to wake up. It's on us to expand out and begin to own the fullness of the 4 layers or levels of mind. How can we say that's not us? That is us. Okay, so the big change that we're making now is we're unplugging from karma and entering, I've heard it said best, we're entering resonance now. And so what you get will be harmonious with your own resonance. How you resonate, that's your creation. The thing with karma and soul contracts and all that kind of a thing is a part of the past. And so we have, you might even say, we're coming into instantaneous karma. See, it's been good, folks, and sorry for what it's doing there, but oh well. It's been really good, my friends, that we lived in time and that we had karma for a number of reasons. Let's play a thought game here and imagine that right now, we had instantaneous karma. You had the instant return for the energy that you sent out. In other words, you have instant creation. Okay, that's really great if I'm envisioning fairyland and beautiful elementals and all the animals getting along with one another and nobody having to eat anybody to survive. Okay, that works. What about when somebody comes and bops me over the head and I wish they were dead and they die? What about we give the Illuminati this power of instant creation? I mean, just stop and think about it. Watch, you should be doing this. Watch it. Pardon me, I used a swear word. I deeply apologize. The word should is offensive. You do what you darn well please. However, for those doing the watch and observe thing, you can watch yourself through a day and just imagine during that day that every single thing that you thought of, you created right on the spot. It would be good as long as we could stay present and be aware of what we were doing. How many of us can stay present for an hour, much less a day? I mean, really present, aware of every movement of thought. How many of us are so harmonious in our feeling self, in our emotional body? I think of, by the way, just for convenience, I think of physicality of 3D as if I have four bodies here, not just one. You've got the aura, so you've got more than just what's visible physically. And so I think of a physical body, a mental body, an emotional body, and an etheric body as the other sheaths that all go together to make up my incarnation, you know. So there are the different levels of your being, your mind, as well as you have a whole self that's your feelings. That's the nature of your feelings. And that's powerfully creative. Our feelings get us closer to spirit than our mind does. The way I think of it, the mind is attached more to the body, and the feeling or emotional nature is attached more to spirit. And of course, I could be wrong, guys. I mean, all I do here, disclaimer, disclaimer, all I do is just share my understanding. And I'm not claiming to be Buddha or Christ or Avatar or, anything special at all. So, but if something's helpful here, I'm deeply grateful for that. All right. Now, what I was pondering this morning is, being in this state where personally, I'm kind of like constantly unplugging from everything because I want to be flexible and mobile and I want to go with the flow. And so I don't want to be attached to anything because that gets in the way. See, I get my way. That's the thing. We're creator gods and we get our way. And so it's on us to harmonize our way and what we want and what our intentions are and all of that with the flow. So it's not like we become little cotton balls or dust balls that don't really exist and we just get blown along in this divine flow. We don't lose our individuality in this. We just expand it way beyond what we thought it was. Remember, persona comes from the Greek for mask. It's a mask. It's not a reality. It's not who we are. It's kind of like who we hide behind. So this is the letting go of the person to some extent, not totally, but So in all the unplugging, I was listening to Michael Newton last night, Dr. Newton, and his, his books are Journey of a Soul, and I forget the other one. Or I probably got that wrong, but anyway, I got the name right, Dr. Michael Newton. And he talks, his specialty became the period in between incarnations. And so he worked with souls that he took them to pass this incarnation and, just in between, where Actually, I think maybe he took them into their last incarnation and then through the death scene of the last incarnation and then on into the spirit world. But he's got lots and lots of thousands of hours of quizzing folks and quizzing their guides as well, you know, about what it's like over there. Okay, that's kind of been my specialty or my hobby in this life. We have things that light up our fires tremendously. We have things that are interesting, but we have these things that go beyond interesting. Well, the whole near-death experience thing, the whole studying what's life on the other side like thing has been that for me all my life. It's been just a pure fascination. And I've put, I don't know, probably more than 1,000 hours or maybe several into the study of this and the reading of the books and the watching of the videos and just the whole thing, the pondering and the communing. And so I was contemplating this morning how recently it was like my higher self came through and through me said goodbye to 3D. It really did. It recognized it as a creation that was something that I was projecting and loved it deeply, deeply, dearly loved it. I had the sense in that moment of the love of all of my lifetimes, all of my interactions, and I've been a native a person, a Native American or a Native Australian or whatever, any number of times. The love of the land, the love of nature, the love of Gaia flows through my veins. And it was this love, but it was also this recognition of the unreality. So on the one hand, you have it's totally, totally real and deeply adored. And on the other hand, you have the recognition it's also a projection. It's also my own creation. And so the goodbye was said. It was a very fond, very poignant is the word, a very poignant goodbye. That hit me pretty deeply. That's something that you put in your heart and you ponder. And so in the ongoing pondering, what hit me this morning was, as challenging as it is to let go of 3D, that's not my main challenge. My main challenge may be to let go of what's on the other side. What do I mean by that? Okay, when I say I let go of 3D, I guess what I mean is the material cosmos, the whole thing. The whole thing. And that would include all of the dimensions, all of the densities, all of that. So that includes the concept that I need to be to retain the same kind of individuality on the other side and to go and to have this life review and to be as if I was an individual person and study in schools on the other side, the whole thing. Well, if I'm giving up schools here, that's another layer or level of what was given up. But that's a big thing for me to sit here and realize beyond the cosmos, I don't have a clue what is. To know yourself as a creator is one thing, but it's kind of an endless thing, isn't it? How do you dive into that? How do you digest it? The only one whom I've ever heard talk negatively about the whole experience of going through the tunnel and, into the light and the love and greeting your relatives, all that stuff, even your pets will be there to meet you. The only one I've ever heard speak out against that is Robert. It's either Morning Star or Morning Sky. I think it might be Robert Morning Sky. And he's a bit of a scamp. I think in his tribe, he's Native American. But he was told things by his elders, I think his grandfather. And they had some doings with a crashed ET. You know, the native peoples don't have a problem with our star brothers. They don't demand that they come down and appear in their spaceships and prove themselves. They've kept their histories, their oral histories. And so within the tribes, I think most of them know. And, you know, why should they share things with us when all we do is poo-poo it, huh? So hopefully we'll be getting along far, far better now that the time has come for them to reveal their wisdom. And we can once again step into layers and levels of respect for the indigenous peoples that haven't existed on the earth for a long time. It's so terrible what's happened there. We have to let it go, though. On both sides, we have to let go the horror of the disrespect and the abuse. I mean, many peoples have gone through it. Obviously, the Black peoples have gone through it. When they were new to this country, the Chinese, oh my God, the abuse that they suffered. The Irish weren't even considered human. I mean, you know, prejudice is prejudice and abuse is abuse, and it just doesn't matter. There's no one group that we've got to get the boulders off of our shoulders that we've been carrying of resentment and anger and self-pity and rage and all of that. It's highly painful. The thing is, folks, try this on for size. If you were a cruel slave master, very abusive, what do you think your next incarnation's going to be? Don't you think it's only logical that you're going to be the slave? That you're going to be abused? These incarnations are not for cruelty. They're not for punishment. They're for softening and opening hearts and leading us into love. Love is the whole point of everything. So if you want a shortcut, it's love. Find a way to step into love, and that will shortcut all of your difficulties. It really will. It's the bottom line. If you knew the bottom line, you know, you really don't have to go through so much because you met your objective. Whose objective? I don't know. It's not that it's an objective. It just is. Love is. That's what the whole creation is. Okay. So I guess anyway, Morning Sky. He has some really interesting things to say. If you do some searching on the internet, he's got a lecture or two that you can find still, I think. And he's knowledgeable about the ET thing. And I'm not saying I believe every word that comes out his mouth or anybody's mouth. But his contention is that we're manipulated by the ETs on this side, as most of us know, and they do a lot of their work through what we call the Illuminati, or the powers that were. That's been the methodology of the control. And he says on the other side, just the fact that you go through the tunnel, you're staying captive, so to speak, and that they are also in charge of things over there. I have never really accepted that, but I hold my belief in what's over there more lightly because of it. It's the watch and observe thing. I mean, when you don't know, what else can you do but continue to observe and be open? See, that's the big thing. Most of us don't see because we're not open. And so if I could offer anything, I would say openness. Find where you're closed and look into that. Find out, why are you closed there? Why aren't you willing to listen to something that disagrees with the way you think things are? I mean, the whole NDE thing, going to the other side, going through the tunnel, all of that stuff is so important to me. It feeds and nurtures something inside of me just to hear the stories. And then to have this guy come along and say, well, that's all bunkum. And what you think is feeding and nurturing you there is really just another way that the ETs are using you to be fed. Well, that was deeply shocking. I didn't want to believe it. And I'm not saying I believe it now, but what I'm saying is I'm open to it. When and if this body dies, I don't necessarily think a lot of us are going to lay down our bodies this time. I think they're in the process of chemicalization, of changing. I think we're shifting from a more flesh-based thing to a crystalline-based thing. We're crystalline at the heart of us anyway. Blood under sufficient magnification shows that its formation is like crystals. And so, and we've got a lot of DNA. I listened to somebody in a video yesterday, been listening to too many lately, so I can't remember which one, that said that, it might have been on BBC Horizon, that our DNA, a lot of the supposed junk DNA, that it's been discovered that some of it is extraterrestrial. Well, I thought that was pretty interesting. Too bad it was just one line in the show, huh? And I don't know how they could prove that it was extraterrestrial. I think all they could do is prove that it wasn't human, since we've had the Genome Project. Did you know, by the way, that a plant's DNA sequence is more complex than that of a human being? It's got more codons, more complexity. I found that pretty darn fascinating. We don't know how to read the DNA. We're barely scraping the surface of it. It's much more, and I think that's what the sun and the cosmic rays and so on is acting on in order to bring about the change in us, to bring about the change to where either all or almost all of the planets in the solar system are experiencing this global warming thing. I think Uranus is putting out more energy than it could possibly be getting from the sun, you know, and I butchered that. But look into it. You're not going to get it from your typical channels. But for those doing the background, the alternative news, so to speak, they will use NASA and SOHO. They will use the establishment's machinery in order to get the information. So it's not like they're coining the information out of thin air. And then you be the judge of what you think reality is and how you think things work. I think it's a neat game we have going down here, because on the inside, when we touch down in heart and get really deeply in there, we can come in contact with all-knowing. I know that on some level of our being, each of us, we know everything because we're part of the one, the whole. We're united. And we made these agreements to forget our past and so on in order to do this incarnation thing that we've been doing here. But that's about over, folks. So let that go while you're at it. Let go the thought that you don't know. You do. Put that belief in your pipe and smoke it for a while. I think that's maybe what I'm doing here. I'm getting high on messing with beliefs, finding which ones I can pitch, you know, and oh boy, that's a good one to take on board. And as I say, put it in my pipe and smoke it a while and see what comes of it. Okay, I think I've gone far enough for this time. See you guys later. Good day.